Hey, and welcome back to General Games. We're just before round 5.
And this is going to be the final round of General Games' Legacy events with Tropical Island on the line.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at the standings going into round 5. So, unfortunately for us, the round 5 matches are somewhat meaningless, as we already have our clean top 8, unfortunately. Which means that I'm fairly certain that most of the top 8 players will just be IDing, guaranteeing a spot in the top 8. We might be able to convince James and Michael to bash and play for first, so that'll at least give us a competitive match on stream, which will be good. But anyway, so the standings are, well, we're looking at them. So it's James O'Brien, Michael Webb, Jack Jiggins, Jeremy I can't pronounce that. Thomas Stiletto, Justin Ventura, Trent Clark, and Scott McPherson.
And if you just want to run down what the decks they're on, we've got, once again, Abzan for James, Michael Webb on Storm, Jack Jiggins is on Death and Taxes.
Yep.
Jeremy Cafters is playing Grixis Delvis, we just saw on the last round.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Stiletto is playing Sneak and Show. Justin Ventura is on Black Red Reanimator. Trent Clark is playing the 4-color lovely Check Pile, one of the new decks in the format.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Scott McPherson is playing just Turbo Depths.
Turbo Depths, there we go. So, nice, very top 8. Should be good, actually.
Yes, it's 8 different archetypes, which is what we love to see in Legacy.
Yeah, always. Lots of varied matchups. Definitely skill testing for the players. They're going to have to, really know their matchups well. Sideboard definitely becomes a very strong, very, very important part in the top 8, obviously. And you can also, I guess, so we can work out essentially, assuming. Oh no, we can't, because there's so many players on 9 here. We can't actually work out what the matchups will be going into the top 8.
So James, Michael, and Jack are fairly set where they are, and they're probably going to stay there. The 9-pointers might move around a little bit when they ID, but it's just really a question of what they decide to do. Someone might try and bash to get first place, and if that is, we'll try and show that. But,
yeah, for sure.
Otherwise, we'll see if we can get an interesting matchup.
Yeah, we'll definitely get a matchup on stream. Ideally, obviously, it would be a match that has a significant meaning. Otherwise, we'll just try and find, like you say, something really interesting to watch. So I think we had a question in the chat. About the event. So this is actually a sanctioned event. This is competitive RL.
Right, and that means everyone has all their cards, obviously.
Yep. So it's being sanctioned, requires obviously no proxy. This is an expensive room of cards. And also deck lists submitted, deck checks taking place, competitive rules enforcement, game rule violations, all that jazz. So our local level 2 judge, Jimbo, is in the house, making sure everyone's doing the right thing. And yes, Graham's lost his jacket.
It's a magic trick because we're doing a magic stream.
Yep, of course. Got to keep it consistent, right? So we're just waiting now to go into the 5th round. We're just waiting for the table to be set up and running. So until then, you have our lovely faces to look at. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, so the event, I think we pulled 27 players. We're playing off for a unlimited Tropical Island.
That's right. So that's definitely something that people would want.
Yeah, definitely. Very top-heavy price support. So basically, it's all or nothing. You either win the trop or get some packs, which it's not the worst. You get your money back.
You might get something good in the packs.
Might get something good in the packs, but definitely everyone is here for the trop. And we're just being handed the deck lists of the table. It looks like we are getting
not one of the top 8 matches.
Not a top 8 match.
What we've got here is Phil Unwin, and he is going to be playing just a traditional red-green lands deck.
Yep.
And on the other side of the table, we've got Yi Hua, and he is going to be playing what looks like a Shardless bug list. So haven't seen that particular variant running around a lot recently because Food Chain seems to have superseded it. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so looking at the lists here, hopefully we'll be able to get them up on the stream soon. But until then, So the what have we got here? So it looks pretty standard. Nothing amazing. All right, well we'll jump into the match and take it from there. See what we can work out the boards and such when we get into the match.
And Robert.
And we're back. There's 7 cards.
Phil showing us up in a nice face.
Yep.
Robert, to answer your questions, this is at General Games, which is a store in Caulfield, Melbourne, Australia.
Yep. So we run some pretty regular, well-supported legacy events here. A few other formats as well, but we do like our legacy a lot. Play a bit of Australian Highlander as well. We like the old cards. So it looks like Phil is keeping his 7 and Lee is going down to 6. So looking at the lists here, just on the surface, who are we favouring here?
So Lands has always had a very good creature matchup, which for the most part is what Shardless does.
Yep.
The Planeswalker in their list, if they can get them going, can be very hard to deal with depending on exactly what happens, because they don't really have a way to tick them down.
Yep.
And it looks like Lee's leading off here on a Deathrite Shaman.
Deathrite Shaman, yep. So actually, I think we've got the name. Sorry, we've got the names wrong there on stream. Not sure. I think it
should be Yi instead of Lee.
Yeah, I think it's Yi Hua. But we'll get that fixed up at some point. But in regards to the match, we've got I believe Yi kept his 6 and then bottomed the card.
That's right.
And then was able to, but still managed to play turn 1 Deathrite, which is perfectly fine here. Yep. So it goes back. It went back to Phil. Phil played. Oh wow. So Phil played a
Exploration and Eviction Import on his first turn, and they've both now been removed from the board.
They're gone. Pretty solid there from Lee. I do believe the Wasteland there should be exiled. So yeah, there we go. Yeah. So so the Wasteland used very efficiently there was used to. Oh wow!
That's a Shardless into a time ago.
Oh so, wow! That's just
starting off with a very big presence on the board.
That's just what you want to be doing. That is why the deck plays both of those cards. So great start here from Yi. Although on the other side of the table, a menacing looking Dark decks. Now I don't believe in hand Phil has any way to. Oh, maybe was that a Thespian Sage?
No, it's a Maze of Ith and a Glacial Cousin, and another Dark Depths that he's got over there.
Yep.
The Deathrite Shaman at the moment is very threatening for Phil at the moment, because it removes a lot of what his graveyard interaction that he's wanting to do with as well. So he needs to keep that in mind with that Life from the Loam that he's got in hand.
Yeah, of course. Yi didn't see his whole hand, but had a Force of Will there, which always feels good. It's a nice bit of a safety blanket there. Yeah, and 2 blue cards. So I imagine he's going to hold on to the Ancestral Recall there as fuel for the Force of Will. And at some point, that Jace will probably hit the table.
What I would be planning on doing. Decides to suspend the Ancestral Vision, and that'll be going off in a few turns.
Yep. No, feels he's obviously got a strong enough board presence right now. Doesn't need to get the Jace out if he can not have to cast the Force of Will. It's a bonus. But if he does, he's got it. So on the other side of the table, nothing exciting going on there. 2 Maze of Iths, which will be holding the creatures back for a while.
The time ago, it's only a 1/2 at the moment.
Yeah,
so that's been removed from the graveyard, so it's not that threatening. Not
a big deal, but can get quite big quite quickly. So currently, it's just an enchantment in the bin. It's now a land. So the Goyf becomes a 2/3. So Phil
And just to answer the question, Robert, I don't believe Phil is related to Dan Unwin.
Of course. We might see if we can ask him just to get confirmation.
It's Dan being one of the more famous Australian Magic players, for those who don't know.
Yep. Yeah, so no, just confirm, no relation. So there's the Jace hitting play.
Absolutely, and at this point, considering Phil's actions in the last couple of turns, and he hasn't really been doing that much proactive, I would start going up.
Yep.
And just trying to lock him out of the game entirely. But he's decided he wants to
chooses to brainstorm. By brainstorming, he turns. I mean, he could miss, but he turns on his Force of Will again. So the brainstorm's into a brainstorm, which allows him to now sits on his Force of Will,
which is good as well.
Yeah, of course, it's a nice safety blanket.
That's a gamble. Probably going for the Thespian stage.
So do you just snap counter this, right?
I think you have to. I believe the traditional plan with the tutor is don't counter it unless... so counter the thing that it gets unless you can't counter that.
Yep.
And he's definitely going for the Thespian stage.
And he has no onboard answers to the Thespian stage there. Well, I mean, he could bounce it with Jace as well. So he does actually have an answer to it if he
does,
wanted to.
But that's only if Phil's playing a little bit softly and not doing it in his end step.
Yeah, of course.
Phil's still holding up the Glacial Chasm on his side of the board, which allows him to just completely cut off the damage without the Maze of Ith, but he does take 2 damage each turn if he does choose to do that.
Okay, so... Yep. So we're just looking at Yi's list here. I mean, pretty standard, nothing amazing, nothing special.
He has cut a few Baleful Strix. He's gone down from the traditional 4. He's put in a Leovol, which a lot of the other decks are doing because it's a great card. And he's got the Hymn to Turak in the main deck as well.
So the hymn going off there, ripping 2 cards. It looks like it hit a Mox Diamond and something else.
And there was a Life from Loam in hand. I don't know if it hit that. No, it looks like he's hit the other Dark Depths.
Hits the other depths. So...
Glacial Chasm Life from Loam left in Phil's hand.
Yeah, so in all, not terrible. Interesting, just looking at Yi's list there. Why the 1 of Thoughtseize? Like, seems interesting to just have a singular Thoughtseize in your main board.
It's probably just a hedge, I would say, against... Yeah, it is a good question, actually.
Yeah, it just seems interesting to have just a singular Thoughtseize.
He does have 2 more in the board, so it's I guess. Possibly just... getting to boost the numbers.
I guess you could just fire it off at the right time and get someone. But it's interesting. I suppose that's the most interesting port I think of from his deck is just the interesting split of Thoughtseize, 1 Thoughtseize, 3 hymns. Everything else pretty standard. 1 Leovold just because.
Absolutely.
Why not?
I think at the moment. Next turn, when that Ancestral Visions goes off, Yi is just going to completely take over this game. He has just too much mana advantage and card advantage on his side of the board to what Phil's doing.
Nah, Phil's going to get buried in cards here. So Yi's going to draw a bunch of cards. He already has a decent grip. He's got a great board state, and Phil doesn't have any of the above. So going to struggle. Granted, hasn't drawn particularly well. Definitely had some live draws, sort of missed. Bit unfortunate, but this is only game 1.
That's right, and there's a lot more magic. A lot more magic to be played.
Of course. I mean, obviously, Yi, Shardless, the Shardless hitting into the Goyf there was just perfect for the deck. Quite literally, one of the best things you can do with the deck. Just puts on a lot of pressure. Though the Goyf itself, not particularly big yet. Partially, I guess that there's a certain amount of tension within the Shardless deck itself that it
still a 4/5 at the moment, which is
it got bigger. Oh, so it's gotten bigger now. So it is a 6/5. Oh, sorry, 5/6 rather, of course. So it has gotten quite big. But the Shardless deck can also remove a lot of cards from its own graveyard and its opponent's graveyard. So there's kind of a tension. Oh, okay. So now we have... Here we are talking down about the Goyfs, but he now has 2 6/7s in play. That accelerated very quickly. So another gamble. He's just going for the Marit Lage here, right? He's going for the Thespian stage.
Going for the Thespian stage, I think.
Yep. Is there anything else he could get that does anything here?
I wouldn't say there's a lot that he would want to be doing. The only thing I could think of is maybe the Tabernacle of Pendril Veil, but I'm not sure that's doing enough.
It's too slow. It's too slow. Even if
and he's got 4 lands, so he still keeps half his board in play.
Yeah, he just yeah. So there we go. So hits the 4, which is the Mox Diamond. So gamble. I'm assuming most people know what the gamble is, but basically it's a tutor to hand. But with the caveat that once you've tutored, you remove a card or discard a card from your hand at random.
And there's the Ancestral going off. He draws 4 more cards, and he's left with an Ancestral Visions, a Thoughtseize, and 2 more cards.
Yep. So the Thoughtseize, here we are talking about the Thoughtseize, but right now he's going to rip the... I assume he's just going to fire off the Thoughtseize here, given the gamble, and his opponent obviously did not gamble for a Mox Diamond.
Well, if he assumes that his opponent has gone and got the Thespian stage, I don't think you want to proactively go on that plan.
Yeah, of course. No, you're correct. Does not hit the land. Non-land permanent. Non-land card, rather.
It might be worth just doing it for information regardless.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry, I apologise. Of course, does not hit it.
He's just brainstorming one more, getting lots more cards. And,
choosing not to go up with Jace here feels he doesn't need to win via that route, can just win on board. Does choose to fire off the Thoughtseize.
And he sees Loam, Stage, and a Glacial Chasm, and I think that Loam is going to be removed from his graveyard very quickly if he has the opportunity.
Yeah. Then immediately removed by the Deathrite Shaman. That will drain Phil for 2. And continues on his way. Look, he's just in a great spot here. Don't think there's too much Phil can do, unfortunately. And there's a lot of power coming at him.
Swinging in even with the Deathrite Shaman as well, so it's a total of 3 damage after you've got rid of the Maze of Iths.
Yep. So Phil obliged to keep the Maze of Iths. Like, he's just not in a spot here that I don't think he can't get back. He has no board wipe. He's just playing it out now, I think, to see more of the deck, if anything.
See if there's anything interesting in the 75 that he might not know about.
There's another. There's the 3rd Deathrite and the 3rd Goyf. Interesting board state. So one of those 6-7 Goyfs will guarantee get through next turn, I believe, short of Phil pulling another Maze of Ith. Does he play 4 Maze of Ith or 3 Maze of Ith?
He's currently got 3 Maze of Ith.
Yeah, so he could. So presumably, possibly could pull the 3rd Maze of Ith. Maze of Ith MVP in that case, but I don't think it's going to matter. Has a crop rot. can crop rot into the Maze of Ith. Considering his options here, I don't think he has too many.
I think the plan at the moment is to play the Glacial Chasm, get rid of one of the Maze of Iths, and just negate your opponent's next turn, and then end of turn activate the Thespian stage into Dark Depths and swing with the token, and then that is actually probably a winning line from where we are at the moment.
Yeah. But
there is always the opportunity of the Jace hitting a wasteland, and looks like that's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. So Phil, you're quite right here. He's still not dead. Well, actually, I think he might just be dead to the Deathrite activations.
That's true as well.
Yeah, I think that's 6 damage. That he here's the Shardless trigger going to cascade into some. No, wait, no, I'm not playing a new Shardless. Sorry, I apologize.
He's just
rearranging his board. Chooses to swing in, which means.
And he taps some mana. He blocks with the Dark Depths token.
Blocks with the token.
Which means it's going to get bounced by that Jace by the look of it.
Yep. So playing to the line that he's not dead to, but not winning with either. Instantly bounced by Jace. He has... he's just dead, right? He gets drained for 6 and then it's done.
Sounds about right to
I don't believe he can... I don't believe there's any way out of this at this point.
And there's the 4th death, right? Just
in case.
So we had the full set.
Yep.
And that's him scooping it up. And let's look at what's going to be happening in the sideboard.
So having a look at the sideboard now. So we'll take a look at Phil. I guess we'll take a look at Phil's sideboard first, considering he was somewhat punished there. So looking at a Chalice of the Void, a Kozilek's Return, 3 Corrosive Grips, Pithing Needle, 4 Spheres of Resistance, 2 Thorn of Amethyst, and two Tireless Trackers.
I've always liked the Croson group in this matchup, just because a lot of the creatures are also artifacts, so it's got incidental hate against Shardless Agent and against Baleful Strix, and then if they bring in anything which is going to be relevant against you, it might hit those as well, something like a Pithing Needle or something similar. The Tireless Tracker is something that is only really going to be hit by the Abrupt Decay in Ye's deck, and can just build up quite quickly. I don't think the Chalice or many of the other cards are going to be that relevant.
Yeah, not doing too much.
Pithing Needle will hit the Deathrite Shamans along with the Planeswalkers, so that's a reasonable card to bring in as well.
Yep, definitely. So yeah, look, nothing too special going on there, I think. Be interesting to see what he does bring in, but we can jump over and see what Ye's going to be doing.
So Yi has Diabolic Edict, Fatal Push, Golgari Charm, Liliana the Last Hope, Annihil Spellbomb, Pithing Needle, Surgical Extractions, Thought Seizers, Toxic Deluge, Grafdigger's Cage, Vendilion Click, Dread of Night, and Baleful Strix. So it's a lot of one-offs he's got there. I would definitely be looking at all of the graveyard hate coming in to deal with the Life and Loan package. So you're going to see the Surgical Extractions and the Nail Spellbomb. Diabolic Edict is obviously really good with dealing with the Dark Depths token, and Pithing Needle will also deal with that particular combo as well, so that can come in. Baleful Strix has some random value as well sometimes, just in terms of being able to block if you don't have the immediate answer to the Dark Depths token as well.
I believe I was hearing you talk to someone outside just between the games about how good a Vendilion Click can be versus a Life in the Loam.
That's right. So if they've only got the one online at a given time, you can put that particular card on the bottom of their library during their draw step if they decide to dredge it.
Anyways, so we will wait for the players to shuffle up, present their 7, 6, or whatever it is they go to, and we'll go back to game 2. The Pithing Needle is interesting because obviously you can't name mana abilities, but you can still name lands which turn off their non-mana abilities.
Which is you just want to name the Thespian stage, and that stops them from doing
Combo's done.
That part of the combo. One of the interesting interactions that you can do is, in response to a Pithing Needle, name a basic land, and then they actually need to name the basic land rather than the Thespian stage, because it's a different card instead.
Yeah, of course.
So it's one of those weird interactions that not everyone knows.
Yeah, of course. Interesting. Yeah, it's a lot of little tricks and fancy plays, I guess, can be made in Legacy given the vast number of different cards and different interactions.
That's right. I think he definitely has the upper hand with some of the sideboard cards that he now has access to, and we can see that he did bring in that Vendilion Click.
So there's the click. But chips it back. Neither player liking their 7.
I think that he definitely has an advantage going forward, but Phil still having the ability to pull off that Dark Depths combo very suddenly.
So just a question in chat in regards to the Pithing Needle naming a basic, if you want to run through that again for us.
So because Thespian Stage takes on all the abilities of the cards when it copies it, if you copy another land, you need to name that land with your Pithing Needle in order to stop the ability from being activated.
Yeah. So it basically means that you can get around the Pithing Needle, but you need to do it proactively, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they might know to do that, but it's just a little bit tricky. It also means you can get around Wasteland if they've got them floating around as well.
Of course, yep, because it does copy the types, so Wasteland not able to hit a Thespian Sage that is a copy of a basic. So opens up with a Mox Diamond, discarding a Rashardin Port.
Play another Redemption Port.
Plays a Rashardin Port. There's an expensive opening hand. So on the other side of the table, Yi has...
plays a fetch land, and Phil's immediately ported it to try and make it so it's a land he can interact with properly. And it means that it can be wastelanded because he's elected not to get the basic land off it. Yep.
Now, am I missing something? Is there a reason he wouldn't have just cracked in response to the Rashardin port?
So if he cracks and gets the basic during his next upkeep, it can be ported, so it means that he's got the ability to use that card this turn.
Of course.
So here, Phil can't port it because he doesn't want him to fetch.
Yeah, okay, cool. Fair enough. Yep. So just some good heads-up play there.
Yeah, as I said earlier, though, it does mean that you are open to someone wastelanding the actual fetch land itself while it's tapped and not being able to use it.
Yeah, of course. Which would be a little bit punishing, but in the long run a better line, I feel, for Yi. So has the turn 2 death right this time.
That's right. And
strong card in the matchup again, as demonstrated by the 4 that were in play in the previous game rather.
And going ahead with that fetch land now.
Yep, fetching now. Probably playing the Pithing Needle.
That would sound quite good, and turning off that port would be good, especially with the second one in the graveyard and the deck having access to the 4 life and the loam.
Yep, turning off the port's very good. Port a very strong part of the lands deck. Very controlling card. Being able to control what mana and how much mana your opponent has access to at different times of the game.
Definitely, and you see here that he's proactively fetching out a basic to play around the Wasteland package, and we can see them confirming that port has been named in this particular case.
Yep, so the needle turns off the port. Phil might at some point consider Crossing Gripping that.
It wouldn't be the worst choice. He's not really depends on what else he sees. It's obviously mana denial is a huge part of his game plan, and that's stopping him from doing that.
It will depend what his deck presents to him, I think, in what order.
At the moment in hand, he's got a Crossing Grip, Gamble, Life from the Loam, and a Mox Diamond, and it looks like he's gambling.
Fires off the Gamble.
Very interested in what he might be going to get here, but I would...
Well, Yi does have the option of Force of Willing this with the Shardless agent that he doesn't have in hand, but chooses to not counter here. So Phil going to get, what do you reckon here?
I don't think there's anything which really hugely skews the matchup. It might be a Wasteland, it could be a Punishing Fire, just to try and deal with what's on board at the moment, or it could be him future planning. Something like an Exploration could be huge at the moment.
Looks like he didn't see what he went and got. Bit of a risky gamble, only 4 cards in hand.
He went and got a Chalice.
He got the Chalice and was punished. So fetched the Chalice and the Chalice was removed, that obviously being the downside of the gamble card.
The downfall of Chalice against a deck like Shardless is it's just got so many different converted mana costs in the deck to try and proactively get more value off Shardless. So you can put it on 0 to hit Ancestral, 1 to hit Deathrite, and then 2 to hit. Just a wide range of things.
And also, I mean, the four main board Abrupt Decays in the Shardless list sort of laugh at the Chalice if it ever becomes a problem.
That's right, and he's just cast the Life from the Loam, so we'll see what happens there, because obviously it's exposed to the Deathrite now.
Yep. What did he pick up from the Life?
He picked up just the 1 port.
Picked up the 1 port? Oh, no.
Look of it, and then played it and discarded it to the Mox Diamond.
Okay, makes sense. Yep. Of course, that's how he got his second diamond to play. That makes a lot of sense. I think... And we're
going with the Tarmogoyf here and just leaving up the Deathrite.
Yeah, leaving up the Deathrite.
Life from the Loam.
Yeah, Life from the Loam, not going to get another activation there. Interesting. Do you feel that line was worth it from Phil to actually to give Yi the ability to remove the Life from the Loam so easily?
I don't think I would have gone for it, but it is just quite good trying to get that engine online. Sometimes if you have a ability to draw, then if you have the ability to draw in response with an instant speed, something like Tranquil Thicket, for example, then you can leave it there because you do have the mana up, but it does seem very risky. Apparently you just needed that extra mana off the Mox Diamond, though, he thought. So
the Goyf, can't quite see the dice there on stream, but the Goyf is a 3/4 currently. Artifact, land, and sorcery. Yep. There we go. So it's a 3/4. Just catching up. Pithing Needle naming the Rishadan Port. Shardless Agent being cast here. Cascades into Diabolic Edict.
Which I assume he's going to elect not to cast because his only target is really himself.
He would target himself. The Maze Abyss, again, doing work, preventing the damage there from the Goyf, and chooses to take the port. Obviously already taken the Life from the Loam. Apologies.
That's right, and that just means that he can stop him from getting it back later in the game if he does come across another Life from the Loam.
Yep.
And just slowly removing Phil's resources that he has available to himself. He does have 2 Rishadan Port available online again, and that fixed Pithing Needle is now missing. So we've gone to Yi's upkeep.
Yeah, so the Rishadan Port's showing their power here now. So Yi goes from quite a bit of mana to almost none. having access now only to 2, one from the Deathrite Shaman and one from the untapped basic. Now, assuming he has another land in hand, but he doesn't actually. He has 2 Force of Wills, and was that a... That's an Ancestral Vision.
Yeah, but it just... He's managed to get ahead enough with those Pithing Needles that he's just got so much power on the board once again with Tarmogoyf, Shardless Agents, and Deathrite Shamans all sitting there.
The board presence. It's the reason Bug has always been a solid contender in this format. It has answers and it has pressure, and it will just build a board state.
And we've just suspended Ancestral Visions, put on 4, and once again, just that same plan of establishing a board presence, trading 1 for 1, and then pulling ahead off the Ancestral Vision.
The Ancestral definitely a clock here. The turn that he draws 4 cards, 3 cards plus the card for the turn is big. It is a big turning point in the match.
And Phil doesn't really have a way to interact with that particular line in his deck as well.
Cannot prevent it. And obviously, Yi feeling very safe about doing that, given the board state. Not under pressure. There's no Dark Depths in play. There's no Thespian Sage in play. He's not worried about too much. The Rishadan Port's definitely going to slow him down, but it doesn't stop him. It doesn't stop him slowly progressing his board whilst Phil's doing not much.
And Phil's just really hoping for somebody to just stop this and
okay, so what's his ideal draw here? Looking at his list, like, what is he really trying to do? Does he just have to go like ham and get Dark Depths combo in play as soon as possible, or
I think it might be he doesn't really have land in hand at the moment, but I think a Molten Vortex might get him in the game to some extent, just because it deals with both the Deathrites and the Shardless Agent, and that's going to obviously slow down Yi, and he's got the Maze of Ith to deal with the Tarmogoyf. So if he can somehow get a Molten Vortex online, I think that would be very good. Punishing Fire in the same vein deals with all 3 of those creatures as well. But otherwise, the combo is definitely one of the relevant parts of what's going on here as well. And Yi's dropped down a Nihil Bomb. Spell Bomb as well, in case Phil gets anything more in his graveyard that he needs to deal with.
Nothing special is going to be happening from the yards. The Goyf constantly being dealt with. Well, actually, no, this time the Maze of Ith choosing to deal with the Shardless Agent, since the Goyf is not very big.
And he's just made it a 2-3 with that change.
It becomes a 2-3. There is a bit of tension, obviously, as I was saying in the previous game, in the bug lists between their Graveyard Hate and their Goyfs.
That's right, and
but Goyf does it goes up and down quite quickly, as we saw in the previous game. It went from being, what was it? It was a 2-3. It went to being a 6-7.
That's right, and that was in the space of 1 or 2 turns.
So they do feed them quite well, but they also can starve them at times. Still great board state from Yi, not as great from Phil. Hits the Thespian Sage,
and he looks like he's got a crop rotation in hand, so he could pull out the 2020 next turn. Yi does have the Deathrite Shamans on his hand, so even if it does attack, he can... actually, he doesn't have any creatures in graveyard, so he can't bring himself back up to a life total to get around that, but it's something that...
There is a force... the Force of Will in Yi's hand here, I think, is... which he's
got 2 Force of Wills and a Brainstorm, so he's must like the position he's in.
I think he feels completely safe here. Phil, I think... Phil's only line is going to be to go for the Crop Rot into the Dark Depths and attempt to create a 20/20, but that is going to be countered.
It's either that or once again Glacial Chasm does shut off a lot of what he's trying to do with creature damage, but he's still got 2 Deathrites with a 3rd in hand, which shuts that off as well.
So still plays it out. Maze of Ith hitting the Goyf there.
Playing out the 3rd Deathrite. For the Rubbins.
3rd Deathrite. Phil, going back to Phil's side, plays the Crop Rot, which I imagine is going to be Force of Willed, and I think that's going to leads to concession. So a bit unfortunate there from Phil. He just did the bug thing, and Phil just not having any real answers.
And the bug thing is apparently just very similar to the Delvers thing. Just shut down your opponent's plan and take over the game.
So that match wasn't actually for a place in the top 8. Top 8 was decided, so that was for one of the They were 2-2 opponents. 2-2 each. But it nonetheless still very competitive, fun match to watch. Got to see some legacy, some good cards played.
And a lot of interesting interactions.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. Anyways, we will be back with the top 8 in this tournament here, which we are playing for an unlimited tropical island.
And we will go over some of the deck choices and what's happening there just before we go ahead.
Yeah, we definitely. Anyways, thanks guys. We'll be back.